What about all the books that I couldn't finish in 2024? I feel like it's important to normalize not finishing books when we're not enjoying them. We like to call them DNFs, so books we did not finish. And I have about 30, 40 almost every year, and it's been a really steep learning curve. It's been difficult to put down books when I'm not enjoying them, but at the same time it helps you not get into a reading slump as much. So we're going to go through all of the ones that I did DNF this year. We're going to talk about why, if there's a specific reason. We're going to notice patterns. I feel like every year it's pretty specific why I don't finish books. And again, I'm getting better and better. This year I didn't actually list them as well as I usually do. I was dealing with a lot of health issues, brain fog, but due to using my library, I do have the list from there, and then I have the physical ones that are part of my on-haul shelf, so books that I will be getting rid of next time I do a book on haul. So we have about 30 something to go through, so we have plenty to discuss. As I was mentioning, there are definitely patterns that you can notice. I'm going to go quickly through the ones that I just wasn't feeling it, which is difficult to learn. But eventually you realize when you forced yourself often enough to finish a book that if you weren't feeling it right away, you won't like it more at the end. So I'm going to go through those really quickly, and we're going to go into more details with the other ones. So things have gotten worse since we last spoke. Sometimes audiobooks specifically, I'm not listening. And that doesn't happen often, but when it does, I know that the book wasn't working for me. I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki, which again, I think this one is a memoir about depression, but it's 4 hours and I couldn't finish it. Three Women, The Paper Palace, I Keep My Exoskeleton to Myself, The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, The Wives, is it The End of Her? When Among Crows, In the Dream House. So those are all the ones that really quickly I just wasn't feeling it, and I don't have much of an opinion since, again, I put them down pretty much instantly. I think The Paper Palace, I had an issue with the audiobook too, but again, it's been months, so I don't really remember. So feel free to convince me to give them a second shot, but honestly, I probably will not. So we're going to go through the ones that I actually have an opinion. We have Vera Wong's Unsolicited Opinion, which I was looking for more books where the main protagonist was an older female character, which I realized I was really tired of reading. It's often the case in like YA fantasy or sci-fi where like you're following a pretty girl, she's 16, she has pretty hair color, eye color, special. Everyone thinks she's super pretty. She doesn't know though. You know, I was really sick and tired of reading the same thing over and over again. So I've been going out of my way more to find books where the female character is older and hopefully more complex, maybe morally gray. And I have found some really good ones. And I was hoping this one might work for me. Again, murder mystery, I thought it could be fun. I think this one is considered a bit more cozy, and I just was instantly not feeling it. Sometimes these books feel like children's books for adult. That's how I describe it. I don't know. The difference is basically, am I emotionally invested? When I'm not, it just feels like I'm emotionally manipulated, or again, I just don't care. So that's how I felt about that one. So I put it down quickly. I have found other books though with that kind of trope. Like if you enjoy this idea of like murder mystery with older characters, there's the Thursday Murder Club, which is really popular. So that one is a bunch of, I think they're 70s, 80s, and they end up solving murder mysteries. So I think it's a fun concept. Ooh, Remarkably Bright Creatures is another one that a little similarly, I just didn't feel emotionally invested. I waited for like months, if not over a year actually, for this audiobook from the library, and it's so popular, and I was really hoping I would also love it, obviously, and I wasn't feeling it. Again, the whole like children's book for adult vibes, I wasn't feeling it. So I think this one is a cleaning lady that becomes friends with an octopus. Yeah, it didn't work for me. Unmaking of June Farrow. Okay, this is so popular and I love witches. So like everyone was telling me, read this, you have to read this. And I tried. And it took me forever to read about or listen to about half of it from the library. It went back because I wasn't feeling it. So you have this woman and her family, the women in her family kind of go crazy a bit, disappear, and like you kind of get the vibes here. And I think, again, I didn't finish the book, so is it truly a spoiler? I think it also plays with like timelines, like traveling in time and the vibes of the romance. I don't know. I was bored. I wasn't feeling it. It seems to be an unpopular opinion, but I've had that happen a couple times with these kind of witchy books. I feel like witches, either I'm in love with it or I just, ugh. And that's how I felt about that one. I think if you enjoy more like historical fiction or more contemporary than like fantasy, I think there's a higher chance of this working for you than it did for me. Okay, Fledging. Let's talk about that one. I love Octavia E. Butler, okay? She's one of my all-time favorite authors, but her books can be a little messed up. She usually writes sci-fi, although I think this one might be considered fantasy. It's vampires. And the main character starts and she's like a child, like a little child, and she is a vampire, but I think it's gonna get sexual. And I just realized I didn't want to listen to that. I will still read the book because I've heard it's worse. Okay, I'm expecting to worse. You don't even have to tell me, I know. But I will still read this one. I will just not listen to that one as an audiobook. I returned it to the library because I didn't want to actually listen to that out loud. Ugh, no. So, Once There Were Wolves. This one I also have on my shelf. I'm going to give it a second shot, but I just wasn't feeling it. It was really slow paced, and at the time I was feeling a little bit in a reading slump, but I believe this one is a woman that goes to study wolves, which, again, very slow paced. I wasn't feeling it. Thomas. Okay. I do still want to read more books by this author. I've never tried anything by him, but this one really quickly, there's a huge spoiler about a different book, which because I got rid of it right away, I forgot. Which, like, thank you, brain fog. That's the good thing about you. I don't remember what the spoiler was, but I know there's a huge spoiler right away, and it pissed me off, so I returned it. So, 2 more books about witches that didn't work for me because they were really slow-paced, and again, they were more about drama than like fantasy, and like, again, there's a fine line for me whether they work or not. And the first one was Lighthouse Witches, which this one was a mother and her 2-3 daughters that go live into this lighthouse and things happen. I think one of them disappears. Again, I got rid of it. I wasn't feeling it. And Spell for Forgetting is about this island, and Witches is, again, very much of a stretch. It's more like rumors kind of thing. And again, I was really bored. At first I was into it, but I got really bored because the drama just wasn't really happening. So I returned it. But yeah, I want witches to work for me. They don't always, sadly. Okay, the physical one. This one, Megan Miranda, I love her books, but this one is why I didn't know that when I got it. I got it to use as I do most of my books, so it's not too big of a deal. I'm going to probably put this in a little library close to school. Someone is going to like it, but there was some kind of like romance happening. Oh, actually, I put it down 38 pages in. I'm going to take back my post-its. But there was this romance that was going to happen. These 2 kids have, like, teenagers, have someone important to them that disappeared, and like, anyway, I just wasn't feeling it. Again, I don't read that many YA books anymore, and I love this author, and I just didn't want this to ruin my feelings for her. Oh, I've definitely talked about this one, but this was such a disappointment for me. This is The Grace of Kings, which, look at this thing. It's a huge brick, which I don't know where. Oh, I do know where. I put it down 284 pages in. So like I made it almost halfway through and I was so bored. This reads like a history book. I think it's Chinese history inspired, but there's just so many names, so many battles, and so little, there are so many characters you can't really care about everyone. Every time things would finally pick up, nope, they would slow down again, and I just could not force myself to read more than this. So, I mean, I tried about half of it, so, you know, not too bad, but it has to go. It has to go. So, unfortunately, I have heard book 2 is better, but again, I'm learning to put down books when I'm not feeling them. And I refuse at this point to force myself to read like 1,000 pages until it gets better. I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm respecting that feeling and we're getting rid of it. Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This made it to my worst books of the year because I had also read and finished The Housemaid. Hated it. So this has to go. I didn't finish it. I made it, I don't know, 70, 80 pages into it, according to the post-its, because I don't have the actual bookmark. But I think her writing is awful. Like, probably one of the worst writers I have read on Booktube, which is a big statement, but I stand behind it. It is just, you can read that it was self-published, and I can't believe publishers published. Like, I know money is really important, you know, but like, oh my gosh. So she's really popular though, popcorn read, but the writing, the characters, the story, no. Similarly, The Perfect Marriage, which I also was not feeling. I put it down earlier than that because I read them in the same reading vlog and I was so over it. So 50 something pages into it, I was realizing quickly that it wasn't going to work. Some of you told me that the author will find people that leave bad reviews and like complain about you and block you, which like blocking me is fine. I don't feel like authors should read any reviews, my opinion. But blocking people online is totally fine to me. But like, I think it's weird when authors will go out of their way to like reply to people, which hopefully that's not what she does. I'm not even going to look into it because I really don't care. But I always thought it was weird when authors did that, like actually replying like angrily to your review, because You're just giving me fuel. I feel like I'm not a petty person, but I will be extremely petty if an author ever does that to me. So I will make it my personality to just complain about them every chance I get. So let's talk about some nonfiction, because I feel like this year I put down so many nonfiction. There are a couple that are still on my shelves, which actually, that's one of them. I started so many and I just put them down. So not every book that I did not finish, that I DNF, are books I will never finish, but I'm learning to be more decisive about it. You know, oh, maybe one day, no. Will I or will I not? So those are the ones I will not. This one is The Mountain Is You, which, okay, this is about self-sabotage, or so it says, but I'm really, really picky with the self-help kind of books that I read. I feel like often they feel like a money grab. They feel like a scam. I'm just gonna, you know, I want them to help and I'm happy that they do work for some people, but often I should probably look up the author, because like, why am I getting recommendations from you? You know, who are you? But she wrote a couple things that I thought were straight up dumb, so I couldn't finish it. So I put down the book. I think I was 91 pages in. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. Like, I don't know what her background in school is, but I can guarantee you she is not a gastroenterologist, and some things she said about your stomach, no. But again, I feel like I'm finally learning to just not even try these, no matter how popular they are, and no matter how much I would like to learn to not self-sabotage. I need like actual experts, you know? Maybe I should, again, look up these. I'm doing it a bit more, to be fair, but I need to like specifically look up the authors before I read them. Like, the current audiobook I'm listening to is a nonfiction called It's Not Hysteria, and so far it's good. It's an actual doctor that is studying that topic and working in that field, so it's good information compared to, you know, random stuff. So whatever. Oh, this author. This was my first year trying her books. I kept seeing them everywhere, and I feel like these scream summer reads, beach read, and I was like, you know what? This is it. I'm gonna try it. I want to see what the hype is about. She may or may not be for me, but I feel they could be a good, again, beach read. That's fun. I couldn't make it very far because, again, gut feeling, I'm learning to. I hated the writing style. It felt like I'm one of the cool kids or a cool mom and like trying to speak the slang, and it's just, it was talking about social media, which it wasn't too bad, but then when she started saying that one of the characters was trying to participate into this work thing, and she's like, oh, she'll win every week to make the money. She's ready to slay. I just got the ick, and I was like, oh, I literally put it down the page after. I was like, I can't do this anymore. That was the last drop for me. So yeah, again, no hard feelings. It just, I knew I wasn't going to love it, so it's okay. It's okay. Again, it will probably go to a library sale or a little library and someone will read it. Oh, another big pattern for me is to not finish books when they are really sexist or racist, homophobic. I have no more patience. I feel like I used to be like, again, this is a classic sci-fi, so I used to be like, oh, I'll focus on the concept. I do think it's interesting to see how it started, compare it to, you know, nowadays, but I have no patience for it anymore. I can't focus on the rest. In this one, I put it down 62 pages into the book because there were already like 5 things that pissed me off. Like, the main character is a very old man that, like, you know, isn't really getting older, and right away he gets into a sexy time with this girl who is the descendant of someone he had a thing with. And he's, let me get the quotes, it was so bad. So the first one is about a different race, because again, sci-fi, and the author chose, because I hate how people try to remove responsibility, he chose to make this other race extremely sexist and like, you're non-sentient females, blah, blah, like, that's a choice. Oh yeah, right away she tells him, so the young girl tells him right away that she loves him, and he was saying how her appearance, he was describing it, and that made me laugh because he was saying her nose was almost unnoticeable, and I'm like, ah. New standards that are unachievable. Can't even have a nose anymore. No, but what he was saying is he was judging her very harshly physically, and then he was calling her shallow. It's like, dude, you're the 100-year-old guy having sex with a 20-something-year-old that is a descendant of someone. Dude, what is wrong with you? And he was saying how next time that he goes on a sabbatical, I'll take a woman with him. Anyway, it was just like little things like that, and it just, like the book is barely started and you're already annoying me, so I'm learning to respect that also, and just, why? It's not gonna get better. Like, there's no way the story is gonna be so mind-blowing that it's gonna compensate for pissing me off the whole time, right? So, because sometimes I still finish the book and they just keep annoying me more and more, and then the books make it to my worst books of the year. Speaking of which, this one also pissed me off for the same reason. This is Prey by Michael Crichton. I came to the harsh realization this year that even though I enjoyed Jurassic Park and Andromeda Strain by him, some of his other books are apparently extremely problematic, and I didn't know. I was told in the comment section, and this one I was feeling those vibes, which I wish I had put post-its. But basically, this one is going to be about nanoparticles, micro robots. But the man is in a relationship with this woman, this brilliant woman, blah, blah, blah. And he made some really weird comments that felt really personal and like weirdly political. You know, when authors insert their own opinions and randomly he decides that, oh, she'll probably want to divorce me. I feel like, and how, you know, the whole thing online of like, oh, men always lose in court, blah, blah, blah. Like, it went on a huge tangent, and I was like, no, thank you. I'm feeling the weird vibes, and I had been warned that he was that way, and I could see it. So I decided, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. So the rest are books that I fully intend on finishing, so books that are part of a pile of shame. This is the part that I didn't really keep a list, which is why I only have a couple, but it's still just fun to remind you that I have yet to finish. Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, the third book in the Stormlight Archive series. I'm about like 40% into it because I'm at page 430, which, to be fair, this is a whole book already, okay? But I will be finishing it next year. I have a challenge about finishing series or catching up, so that will be part of it. Hopefully I will be actually finally reading it. But yeah, the pile of shame, I feel like it doesn't really count as DNFs because I will be, you know, finishing them. They're not really books I gave up on yet. Maybe some of them I will. Like this one. This is The 40 Rules of Love, which I absolutely adored. 10 minutes, 38 seconds in this strange world. This made it to my best books of 2024. Absolutely adored it. New favorite author, you know, right away. And I bought more books by her, including this one, and I'm not really feeling it. I'm 179 pages in. And it feels a bit too, like, I don't know, spiritual, whimsical, kind of literary fiction, magical realism. They're just, I don't know yet. I will still give it a second shot because, again, I love the other book by her so much. I do have The Island of Something also on my shelf that I will try because, again, I love that other one so much, but currently it is part of the pile of shame, and I actually tried this, I think it was in January, so it's not good. It's not good. Also, recently, I started this one, which is the prequel to the Tearling series, which I absolutely adore, adult fantasy series with a twist. I really liked it, and this is a prequel, but it is a chunky one compared to the average prequel, but I really want to read this. I just put it down and never picked it up again. To be fair, this one is just a few weeks. But yeah, I feel like maybe next year I will have to do a vlog doing my Pile of Shame challenge. I didn't do it this year because I didn't feel like it was going that badly, but I feel like this year there are definitely a lot. I know that, not from this year, but I have the last book in the second Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson that is also part of that challenge. Like, there are a lot of books actually in my Pile of Shame if I actually go through the list. So maybe next year. There are definitely more. Like I said, I just didn't really keep track as well as I usually do, but I think that still gives you a good idea of the patterns. Either I was bored, I had the feeling I wasn't going to enjoy it, you know, I just wasn't the target audience, or there is something that I find problematic, wasn't vibing with. At this point, I have learned that I will not enjoy them, or a few that I want to eventually get back to. But either the format wasn't great, like Fledging as an audiobook, no thank you, or that, you know, life happened, Pile of Shame it is. In my last book haul video, I bought Your Best Books of 2024. I will be reading them in my first reading vlog of 2025. And if you want to hear a rant, I did do my worst books of 2024 also, and that was a lot of fun. And a couple of them I couldn't finish, so they're kind of part of this if you want to hear more of a rant. And I will see you in my next video soon. Bye.